Here. Hey, I want to do a quick video recap of the combine and what we learned from Brandon Staley and all the exciting interviews regarding the Chargers, who the Chargers might get, who the Chargers may potentially look at to grab in the draft. Guys, let's get into it. All right, folks, as always, we are going to bring you the newest and freshest information as possible here on this channel, Bow Pros. Again, Rivers Lake Yacht Club, check them out. We are going to be doing some collabs with them moving forward. Obviously, check out the merch as well, too. So let's get into it. I want to talk really quickly about some of the interesting things that are starting to percolate in the league when we start talking about rumors and things that are potentially happening in free agency, right? If you really think about this, again, Geno Smith, Frank Clark expected to be released. Looks like the Chiefs are going to be making and cutting some serious weight on their payroll. Leonard Floyd, Niners considering Matt Ryan, Andy Dalton, Brock Purdy injury, right? Baker Mayfield, right? Derek Carr might go to the Panthers, Saints, Jets. There's all these different conversations. Even Derrick Henry might be moving. So again, this is when things are going to really start heating up, guys, right? It's one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit on this channel that, look, at the end of the day, we're 20 million over the cap. I know we keep harping on this conversation, but things need to be moved around so we get underneath the cap, at least to some degree. But let's talk a little bit about the combine. Let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about more of what we saw from the combine, because that's really all we care about, right? The Chargers in general. Oh, and before I forget, as far as being released as well, too, one of the biggest release rumors that we talked about on our live on Sunday, guys, we talked that Khalil Mack might be the guy we may release to get underneath the cap this year. So it might have been just a 1-year contract. We release him. I think we're set to save $27 million. Now, think of it this way, guys. If we release Khalil Mack, which would be a huge strategy. I love Khalil Mack. He's doing great. But we release him, he signs with another team, or we could trade him off for maybe a 3rd-round pick or a 2nd-round pick. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler, for God's sakes. But bottom line, if that happens, we're underneath the cap, and then, we could potentially start re-signing people like, Drew Tranquil, some of these other folks, Trey Pipkins, right? These are all people that we need to continue keeping on our team, right? So, you lose one. I mean, ask yourself this question: would it be better for us to lose one person like a Khalil Mack and sign 2 people like, Pipkins and Tranquil? I think those 2 guys are both very important pieces of the puzzle that we just don't want to lose for continuity for next season. So it will be interesting to see how things play out, really. And a lot of this falls on Tom Telesco's shoulders. So anyways, that's enough with release rumors. I'm going to have some bold predictions at the end here as well, too, that I want to talk about. But I want to go into the combine and what we learned, right? And I watched quite a bit of the combine. I really enjoy that for some reason. These kids are, they've worked their whole lives to be here, and this is kind of their moment to shine. And I just think it's a really cool experience. And so it's interesting. And again, if you recall, I think it was about a week ago, there was some rumors that Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco were not going to be at the combine. They were in fact at the combine. So my apologies for not getting that information correct. But it is interesting seeing the trend for teams not to show up at the combine, because it is expensive to have staff show up, hotel stays, food, yada, yada. I mean, it gets very, very expensive. And when you can watch it on TV and you get all the stats, all the videos, you can kind of watch the tape at your leisure. But Brandon Staley did talk about this in a couple of his interviews, that it's really important to meet players, have an interview with them, and secondarily meet with a lot of their agents, right? And potentially other teams, potentially talk about trades and things of that nature. So there's a lot, there's some benefits, but you could probably all do that in one day. So it seems like the trend for a lot of these NFL teams is not to go to the combine and just kind of watch it remotely. So that seems to be the trending, moving forward. So anyways, let's go into the 5 takeaways. So by the way, Eric Smith, I really loved Eric Smith. His writing has been awesome. I think he did a great job on this article as well. So I really wanted to highlight it. So there's 5 takeaways. We want to go through all 5, and then we'll wrap up this video. So first and foremost, Telesco was very clear that Keenan Allen's going to stay in the powder blue. We're not going to let him go. And, I think we all kind of knew that, right? But, it was one of those things where, look, we're 20 million over the cap, guys, and you lose a guy like Keenan Allen, yeah, it's going to affect your team. Keenan Allen is the guy that just moves the chains, right? I mean, as much as we criticize Joe Lombardi for the offense that he wanted that he wanted Justin Herbert to run, it made sense with people like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, because those guys play keep away, right? They know how to move the chains. That's what they're good at. So we can understand the philosophy behind that offense, but the problem is we couldn't score in the end zone, right? We couldn't score in the red zone. So, and that's where, I think, people like, Kellen Moore is going to come in and make a very strong impression and hopefully start moving the chains more aggressively downfield. And again, Allen's 30 years old, right? And, he's going to be in his 11th season, right? He's absolutely killed it for us. And by the way, watch these two videos. This is a great video. There's another video a little later on in this thread as well. Watch that also as well, too. I'm going to recap some of the points of these videos. Again, I don't want to show them all, but they're very good videos on what happened in the combine, what they're looking at, what Brandon Staley's thinking about these coordinators specifically moving forward. So let's talk about the coordinators immediately. The new coordinators are pretty big, right? We all know Kellen Moore. We all know Derek Ansley. So let's talk about Kellen Moore briefly, right? The one thing that I have really liked about Kellen Moore, and we talked about this on our live on Sunday with Pixie and Addicts, Derek. And honestly, guys, watch that video. I think it was literally one of the best lives that we've done. Pixie and Addicts is a great up-and-coming YouTuber, and I'm really happy to see his channel continue to progress. So keep checking him out as well. We'll be doing more collabs with him in the future. But one of the things that I really like about Kellen Moore, and there was this report that came out that Kellen Moore just wanted to light up the screen. It was really interesting how the Cowboys wanted to let their defense rest and, why light up the scoreboard, and we want to keep our defense healthy. And at the end of the day, it's like, guys, the whole point of the NFL is to score points, and Kellen Moore wants to just drive the ball downfield. There is no better quarterback and no better position for him to be at right now than here with the Chargers, because truly he will be able to do exactly what he wanted to do. I promise you, Brandon Staley is completely fine with having Justin Herbert just light up the scoreboard. So that'll be very interesting to see how that happens. I'm extremely happy with him. Now, Derek Ansley, didn't really think a whole lot about him as our cornerbacks coach last season, but apparently, according to Brandon Staley, he's a very sought after, coordinator, right? He's moved up very quickly in his career. I think he's only 41 years old as well, too. So it's actually very young in the NFL, arena. But the good thing is, I think he works very well with Brandon Staley. I think Brandon Staley and Derek Ansley are definitely going to come in with a new kind of view on the defense. And again, I don't think the defense has to be that much better. They just have to be more of like a better at bend, don't break. I think there were a few things that we did wrong last season. Again, in this video specifically with Haley, he is still going to call the plays, but he very quickly said, look, Derek Ansley and I are going to sit down and make a better defense for this team moving forward. I think they're going to collab a lot more, which I think is going to be really good. So I'm excited to see how they switch up the defense this season compared to last season, the season before. I think this is really going to be a good time for our defense to shine. I know our offense is going to light up the scoreboard. If we're not a top 5 offense in the league, I would be extremely shocked, guys, extremely shocked. And again, this is a great little quote from Brandon Staley from the video. He's been one of the most sought after coaches in the NFL and college in the last couple of years. Staley said he's a good defensive coach and that has been around as good secondary coaches I've ever seen. And look, I really do believe he will do a very good job. I'm going to make my bold prediction right now. I was going to do a little save it for the very end, but I do think my bold prediction is next season we're top 5 offense, and I'll say we'll be a top 10 defense. Kellen Moore and Derek Ansley will no longer be with the Chargers after next season. I truly believe we're going to have that good of an offense and good of a defense, and we make it to the AFC Championship game. I really, truly believe it. And again, that's a huge, bold prediction. I know it's off season. I'm excited, but when I sit back and think about what we struggled with last year, right? Again, we were just about moving the chains offensively. Bend, don't break defensively. I really don't think we blitzed the right way. I don't think we utilize our player personnel the right way. But I think Kellen Moore is going to get our defense, our offense to top 5, and Derek Ansley was definitely going to get our defense at least top 10. So those guys are definitely going to have a shot at becoming head coaches after next season, because I really do think we're at least going to go to the AFC Championship game next season. So that's my bold prediction. I was going to save it for the end, but I'm just going to give it to you right now. Why not? But again, one of the other things I really liked, and before I move on to the next point, is that Brandon Staley also talked about Kellen Moore helping our defense. And the reason why is he wants to pick his brain on really what he sees offensively from those other teams, right? Okay, well, how do you want to break them down? And that's going to be great. And it's also going to show how Kellen Moore is going to help Derek Ainsley and also Brandon Staley become better defensive coordinators, because I really do believe we really underperformed last season, right? We really underperformed as a defensive team. I felt like we should have been better. Again, we can talk about injuries all day. That's an excuse. That's frustrating. But again, we still need to be better. So excited to see where we go with that. I think it's going to be really great, right? So, and again, Staley's good quote on Moore is great. It's his play style that he believes in, maximizing the quarterback. These are all the things that we want to hear from our offensive coordinator. And guys, I will tell you, I really truly believe that he's the final cog that we needed for this team offensively. So I'm kind of excited to see where we go from next year. So we can go to some standouts as far as this. And again, some of these don't really matter to us because I don't think we're in the market for this. Obviously, Anthony Richardson, he blew it up. We talked quite a bit about this on our live on Sunday. He jumped up heavily, right? I think a lot of people thought he'd be like late second round, or excuse me, mid second round, at worst early third round, but he lit it up. He will most likely go in the first round somewhere. Bijan Robinson, definitely stepped up. I do not think he's going to be with us on the 21st pick. The Bolts, we're just not in the market for a quarterback. I mean, this is great. It's a good point. I mean, he absolutely killed it, right? We need a backup quarterback, right? It'll be interesting to see what happens there specifically, but it'd be very interesting to see how this plays out. But Robinson absolutely killed it, right? He did a great job. I mean, look at the tape of him. He did a fantastic job and really moved himself up. But lots of speed defensively, which I do think will probably. I'll give you my bold prediction at the very end where we go, where we're actually going to go for second round picks. There's a lot of speed, right? A lot of speed. Michigan quarterback DJ Turner killed it. Northwestern, I don't even know how to say that. Adwamiba, wow. I'll call him double A. How about that? He's a double A batteries. I mean, that's what I'll say. But anyways, lots of good depth. And the interesting thing that I saw, and most of the people talked about in the combine, there's a lot of depth across the board, right? A lot of defensive players, a lot of wide receivers, not a lot of running backs. So I think that's partially why Bijan Robinson has moved up so high in the draft. But there's quite a few good quarterbacks as well, too. So it's pretty interesting. Now, moving on to the next piece, the tight end class is legit. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. I truly believe that a tight end is someone we are going to draft. At no point will we not draft a tight end this draft. We are going to get one. Trey McKitty hasn't really been the best draft for us. He's been okay, not great. But his PFF ratings are pretty low. His production has been fairly low. I do think we're going to get a tight end class type player this season in the draft. Now, where we go, I mean, Darnell Washington will not be there. I just do not see him being there, right? He's just amazing, right? There's a few other guys we talked quite a bit about. Darnell Washington just blew it up. Yeah, Michael Meyer from Notre Dame, Utah, Dalton Kincaid, saw him quite a bit. And then Sam Laporta did really great, right? So there's a lot of depth in the tight end class this season. My prediction is probably get someone in the third round, maybe third round. I'll make another bold prediction a little bit later. I've got a bunch of bold predictions, but I'm going to make it a little bit later on in the video here. Kincaid on Friday talked up his biggest strength. Look, lots of depth in the tight end position. Again, one thing we like about Kellen Moore as well, too, going back to the offense, he really likes a lot of heavy tight end sets. There was a few times he had 3 tight ends on the field. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I do think we're going to get a tight end. I think we're going to have some depth in that position. So I'm excited to see where that goes moving forward. Kincaid specifically talked about this. And again, he really is a very good catching tight end. So a lot of people are sort of comparing him to a Kittle or, some of these other guys out there. I don't know if I'd really go that route. I do think he's definitely not as fast as Kittle. Kittle's extremely quick. But he said, I think I'm one of the best catchers out there, not only tight end position, but kind of through the draft. Wow. Pretty bold statement. I think it's my best strength, and I'm developing as a blocker, right? So, again, the whole point of the combine is really to determine where they're good, where they're not, right? Again, everyone can, evaluate the way they perform, right? Do they turn better to the right? Do they turn better to the left? What are their speeds? What are their split times? How are they catching? Do they catch better on the right side, left side, yada, yada? These are all the things that are broken down in the combine. It's the whole point of these drills to figure that out. Now, the other thing, too, is that the wide receivers impressed as well. Now, again, let me take a step back for just a second. A lot of people seem to really like the sexy picks like the Bijan Robinsons and, Zay Flowers. I think those are great people that we would want to get, right? I think our running back room is quite stacked at the moment, and our wide receiver group is fairly stacked at the moment. My personal belief is that we're probably not going to draft a wide receiver or a running back early on. I think we might get someone late in the draft, maybe someone just very fast, someone we think we can add to or add for additional depth. Maybe a punt returner type guy, someone just very quick that is going to have good hands and come in as a fourth wide receiver option, right? Like a Jalen Guyton type. That's all I see. I don't see a Zay Flowers. I don't see a Bijan Robinson. That's just my personal opinion, just because I think those positions are very deep at the moment, right? So, and we got a lot of money in those positions, guys. Austin Eckler's pretty damn good, right? He scored 40 touchdowns the past 2 years, right? JK had a great season. We still got Isaiah Spiller. We haven't even seen what he can do. And we got Roundtree, right? So we got a lot of players, guys. So I don't see us going after that sexy pick. And again, one of the other things that I have to, and we talked about quite a bit on our live on Sunday, you need offensive linemen to open up holes for these running backs and wide receivers to perform well. If you don't have enough time for the quarterback to throw the ball to the wide receiver, well, he gets sacked and can potentially get hurt, right? You don't open up a hole for the running back to run through, you're not going to get a whole lot of yards, right? So those are all the things that matter. And I really feel like we lost a lot of games in the trenches this last season. Our offensive line play was not great. You look at the PFF ratings, we were not awesome. We were okay, but not great. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers, and then I'll wrap up with my final thoughts. Even with the Allen news, there's a chance. I do think the Chargers may take a wide receiver. I highly doubt in the first few rounds. I think we're looking more, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round pick. I really do believe it'll be a deeper type of position. I just don't think that we need more depth in the wide receiver role personally. Anyways, but that does make sense, right? So again, there's a lot of folks that talked about Ohio State's Jackson Smith Mbingia, I believe is how you say it. Did a great job. But again, Ohio State, I really doubt that he'll be there. Jalen Hyatt will not be there at 21, in my opinion. I just think there's a lot of different things. Yeah, Oklahoma, Marvin Mims. I mean, these are all people that I watched, and they're just really good guys. So I don't know. I think we're probably going to get someone at some point, but you got to wonder, where that sits, right? And so, these are all videos you guys can watch as well too. So let me wrap up. I don't want to get too long-winded on this video. I know I've talked quite a bit here at this point. So let me wrap up, guys. At the end of the day, I think this team is so close to being where we need to be a championship caliber team. I really believe that, right? I think Kellen Moore and Derek Ainsley are going to solidify our offensive defense for this next season, right? Again, I already made a bold prediction about both of them. I do not think both will be here after next season. Top 5 offense, top 10 defense. I think both of them get head coaching roles somewhere else. And then other coaches get elevated to offensive and defensive coordinators the season after. Again, it's a very bold prediction. I understand it sounds a little ridiculous. Now, I'm gonna wrap up with my final bold prediction. And agree or disagree with me on anything that I say, please leave comments down below, please, guys. I always want to see what you guys say, because I read all your comments. I want to make sure I understand your thoughts, and I want to make sure we're on the same page. But my bold prediction is we're gonna get 2 people in the trenches, no matter what. Let's say Telesco keeps the first and second round pick. We're probably going to get an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman first, and then a defensive lineman second. So I think our first 2 picks will be one offensive lineman and next one defensive lineman. I truly believe we're going to try and find somebody in the trenches for long-term success. Again, we did not have depth in the defensive line last season. We go very light boxes, guys. Very, very light boxes on this defense. We need to stop the run, and we did a terrible job with that last year. For us to do what we need to do defensively, we need some butt and gut on that line, someone that can really stuff the run. And again, we can argue about injuries all day, but it's still, we've got to make sure that we start protecting Justin Herbert. So I think offensive line, defensive line. Now, there has been some discussions and some rumors that Tom Telesco may trade down our 21st pick. Think of it this way. Why don't we trade our pick away to a team, maybe get 2 second-round picks, or maybe a top second-round pick and maybe 2 third-round picks, or a third and a fourth-round pick, and we end up getting 9 picks this next season, or 10 picks. What do you guys think about that? I truly think that this draft class is so deep. We could trade down and get some other people in the second, third round picks. I do think that there's a possibility that we may trade that 21st pick for maybe a second, then a third, and maybe like a sixth, something of that nature, right? So that is a distinct possibility. So guys, keep thinking about that a little bit as well. I think a lot of these things are going to play out. And again, this is going to be the week where we're going to see a lot of movement, a lot of discussions, a lot of rumors about people being let go. I already showed you a few, pretty big ones from the Kansas City Chiefs and other teams, right? So it'd be very interesting to see. And again, guys, this is the conversation where we've got to get under the cap. We've got to start having the discussion. Hard decisions have to be made, and that's what's happening now. So guys, as always, Andrew Polprose, see you guys in the next one.